What's up, everybody? Welcome back to another video. We are going to be ranking every single fighter at UFC 290 within the tier list format here. So I'm going to be basically ranking these guys on how well I think they do in their divisions, because I think that's the only way I can kind of rank it at this point. Obviously, skill and potential will play a little bit of a factor there. But I think if you go based on skill, the lower weight class guys will probably be a little bit better than the higher weight class guys because the skill is just different. There's not as much skill or technical skill in the higher weight class than the lower weight classes. So I'm going to base it off of potential and how they are in their division and how I can see them going. That's basically how I have to rank this if I'm going off of all these weight classes. So starting off here, there's like 28 people here, so I'm going to have to run through this a little bit more. I'm not going to rush it, but I'm going to try and explain as well as I can between each of these fighters how I think they can do in this one. So first off, I'm going to go with Robert Whittaker at A tier. I think this is probably the right spot. With the other guy, you can probably guess who's at S tier at this point, but at A tier, I'm going to put Robert Whittaker. I think he's the best guy outside of Israel Adesanya. On this card in general, I think he's the best guy outside of the S tier one that I'm going to put here. I don't know why I even said something like that, but he's a very good fighter. It's him and Israel Adesanya at the top of middleweight at this point. He's shown to be the only guy that is perfected everything in that division, I guess, if you want to say it. Like, he's taking out contenders. The only guy he isn't able to beat is Israel Adesanya. Lost to him by KO in the first fight. Second fight was much closer. A lot of people will say Whittaker beat Israel Adesanya in that matchup. So I'm going to put him at the high part of A tier. I think he's a very good fighter, and I think he probably belongs there. I don't think there's much of an argument there for people. Right below him, I'm going to put Dricus Du Plessis. I think Dricus is a good fighter. I think he's not at the Robert Whittaker area. I don't think he's, maybe even Robert Whittaker, like Israel Adesanya, Robert Whittaker, Cannonier maybe. I mean, that's how the middleweight division is. I don't even know about Cannonier because I thought Strickland beat Cannonier. So how you even rank this whole section of middleweight is not understandable, to say the least. But Dricus, I think, is a good fighter. I don't think he's a Robert Whittaker or like an Israel Adesanya type fighter in that division, but I think he's good. Maybe the nose will fix some things, but I don't know. We'll see how he does in this matchup, but he does have potential to finish Robert Whittaker in this matchup, so who knows. It is middleweight, but I don't know. I think top of B tier will be good for Dricus Du Plessis in this one. I have a lot of people at B tier, so I'm going to try and flush this one out a little bit more. We have Jalen Turner. I believe he's about the middle part of his division. Has fought some good contenders in his weight class. I believe he was supposed to fight Dan Hooker before getting Mateusz Gamrot on short notice and actually looked pretty competitive in that matchup. So I think that's probably why I'm going to rank him right under Dricus Du Plessis. Dricus Du Plessis, I think, is number 6 or 5, something like that in middleweight. Jalen Turner's more towards the middle of lightweight. So that's where I'm going to put him. I think he also beats Dan Hooker this weekend. So that's where I'm going to put him in this matchup. Why don't we go C tier for this one? I'm going to go Esteban Ribovic at the top of C tier. I think he's good. I think he's better than a lot of these guys at C tier, which is why I'm putting him at the top of it. I think within his skill to weight class area, I think he probably has the most potential out of any of these guys on this part of the C tier, so that's why I'm gonna put him there. I guess you can kind of argue it a little bit more, but there's a lot of depth in these tier lists, or the tiers on this. So let's move on. Why don't we put someone in D tier real early? Valentin Woodburn, I believe his name is Valentin Woodburn. Sloppy on the feet, good power on his hands, but just looks sloppy in general. Hasn't fought the best of opponents. Earlier on, he was getting a lot of KOs against very bad opponents, which honestly you should probably finish those guys. But journeyman fighters, he's been taking him to decision. We really don't know the skill gap. He's fighting Bo Nickel. I think Bo Nickel wins. He does have a chance. There is a 1 in 20, 1 in 30 chance that maybe he does end up just KOing Bo Nickel when he goes in for a takedown, because he is a stockier guy with power in his hands, which is a nightmare for any wrestler, I guess, rather than just a regular opponent. So there is that factor, but I think top of D tier at this point is not that bad. He was supposed to be on Dana White Contender Series, so yes, he obviously views him in a certain way, but I think this is a good spot for him. Let's go another B tier, because I have a lot of guys in B tier. I'm going Jack Della Maddalena. I have a lot of hopes for him. He's one of my favorite fighters. Maybe there's a little bit of a bias there, but I think his potential within welterweight is very high. I think he's ranked now like 12, 13, 14. I think he's like 14 or something within that division. I have a lot of high hopes for him. He's supposed to fight Sean Brady. Sean Brady pulled out. I thought he would have beaten Sean Brady. Kind of sucks that he doesn't get to fight him. I believe he's fighting Josiah Harold on short notice. So I think he beats him. I think he moves up there. Probably 3 more fights before he even gets close to like a title shot. But right now I see him fringe top 5 or within the top 5 within the next, I guess by the end of 2024 is where I see him at. I think he's a really good fighter. At some point, he does have a chance of getting a championship. I think he's only like 27 years old, so he's still very young. I think Jack Della Maddalena has a really good future within the UFC, so that's where I'm going to put him at B tier, right under Jalen Turner. Why don't we do another B tier? I'm going to go Dan Hooker. Dan Hooker is ranked higher, but at this point, where do we view Dan Hooker? Because Dan Hooker lost to Michael Chandler, beat Nasrat Haqparast, lost to Islam Makhachev on short notice, and then lost to Arnold Allen going down a weight division, which was a bad idea anyways. And then just beat Claudio Puellos, who is not a very good fighter. Like, let's be real, he's not a very good fighter. So where we see Dan Hooker at this point, Jalen Turner is about midway through that lightweight division rank-wise, and I think Jalen Turner beats Dan Hooker. So that's why I'm going to put him right under Jack Della Maddalena. Who knows if Dan Hooker beats Jalen Turner, he'll move up a little bit more. Maybe you put him at this point higher above Jack Della Maddalena, but that's where I'm going to have him here in this list. Why don't we go C tier? I'm going to go Jesus Aguilar. Jesus Aguilar looked good on the Dana White Contender Series. I guess had a moment against Tatsuro Taira. Tatsuro Taira is a really good prospect at flyweight, so it's not necessarily a bad loss to have. But he did have a guillotine on him before getting absolutely like destroyed in the grappling against Tatsuro Taira, which is a normal thing. Tatsuro Taira is a beast on the ground. Put him in a triangle armbar. It's a crazy finish. He's just so smooth with those transitions on the ground. So I guess I kind of just upped Tatsuro Taira there. Maybe I go with him next here. He's in a difference here. But Jesus Aguilar, I think he beats Shannon Ross, so I'm going to put him under Esteban Ribovic. I think he might have some hope within that flyweight division, but I don't think it's that big of one. So that's why I'm putting him right under Esteban Ribovic. I think he's a decent fighter. We'll see how he does against Shannon Ross. Shannon Ross, I don't think he's that good. So then speaking of Shannon Ross, I might have just put him in here. Anyways, I'm putting him at D tier. Lost to Vinicius Salvador, somehow got signed to the UFC and then lost to Clayton Rodriguez, which isn't necessarily a bad loss to have. But again, I think he loses to Jesus Aguilar. Next up on this list, why don't we go A tier? I'm going to put Brandon Moreno right under Robert Whittaker. I think he does lose to Alejandro Pantoja this weekend, but I'm going to put him under Whittaker. He has a couple wins over Davison Figueiredo. He has a couple wins over Kai France. Has wins over a plethora of guys in that division. He's definitely got better skill-wise since he first got cut by the UFC. So I'm definitely putting him out there. He's a very skilled champion. He's not a bad champion. I think he belongs right under Robert Whittaker. I think that's a fair spot. I don't think anyone's going to argue with it. So I'm putting him there. Next up, we'll go Tatsuro Taira at B tier. And I think within his division, I think he has really, really high hopes for that. And I think I can see him top 10 maybe by the end of the year. There's still, half a year to go. I can see him fighting at least one more time. I'd be surprised if he fights 2 more times. But I think he fights at least one more time. I think they're going to Singapore very soon too. So maybe they stick him on that card and try to put him in there. But I can see him winning again. Maybe he gets ranked after this fight. I want to see him start fighting some ranked guys. And I think he wins some of those. I think he's a better prospect than a Makayev. Steve Erceg, I guess we haven't seen too much on him. And Albazi, I don't even know where to rate a Tatsuro Taira to an Albazi. Maybe Albazi has a slight edge over him in prospect-wise. But I think if Tatsuro Taira kind of finds out his stand-up, I think he's going to be a lot better within that division against some of these other prospects coming up. And I think he's definitely within the top 10, maybe by the end of the year. Honestly, if they stick him on the Singapore card and he fights again, maybe he gets 2 more fights in for the rest of this year if he doesn't take too much damage. But that's with a lot of hopes in general. But I think Tatsuro Taira is a really good fighter. I think he ends up being, at the end of this, he's super young. Within 2 years, I can see him being right outside top 5 or within the top 5. I think he's that good of a fighter. Maybe he hits a wall at flyweight and he just needs to develop more on the feet. But I have a lot of high hopes for Tatsuro Taira. I think he's a really good fighter. Why don't we go at C tier here. I got Vitor Petrino. I think Vitor Petrino has looked good. He looked good on Dana White's Contender Series. Knocked out Bellato for a second time. Poor Bellato, but Petrino looked good against Turcali. Turcali cheated that whole fight. Mark Smith did nothing about it. I believe I have a referee tier list stocked and ready to go in case I want to put that one out there. I wasn't happy with it, so I didn't put it out. But I'm going to go with Vitor Petrino right under Jesus Aguilar. I think he belongs there a little bit more. He has a little bit more power. I think he's pretty skilled on the feet. Showed off some of the wrestling in his last matchup, so we'll see how he does. I think if he gets some really good wins, maybe he can rise up through the middleweight division, which is kind of hit or miss with some of these guys. So I'm going to put him at C tier. And I'll put his opponent right here also. I think he does beat Marcin Prachnio, so that's why I did put him slightly above Marcin Prachnio. But Prachnio, although he did beat Khalil Roundtree, he lost to Sam Alvey by KO. And I just think Petrino is going to beat him, so I just put him slightly above him. That's how I feel he belongs there. So next up at B tier, we're going to put Bo Nickel right under... We're going to put Bo Nickel right under Tatsuro Taira. I think in that division, he has a lot of promise, especially middleweight. The lack of talent and I won't say athleticism, but maybe even that you can definitely see within the middleweight division. I think there's a lot of hope. He has the build for it. I think if he starts training, like if he really figures it out, I think he's definitely going to be a really big threat within that division just with his wrestling, and he has really good power in his hands. So if he develops more, I think he was nervous in that first fight against Jamie Pickett, which is why he couldn't really get the takedown, or at least I hope, couldn't get the takedown, need him in the nuts. It took a little while to finish him on the ground. I think he was a little bit nervous. I think all those nerves goes away here against a guy like Valentin Woodburn. Hopefully he takes him serious. Hopefully he takes him seriously and doesn't end up getting KO'd here. That would be a really big mess that we do not want. And a prospect like Bo Nickel, who could definitely be a really big star. But I'm going to go Bo Nickel right under Tatsuro Taira. I think Tatsuro Taira at this point in his career has a little bit more hopes within that flyweight division, or at least within the rankings. I think he moves up rather soon, probably before the end of 2024. He's probably right outside the top 10 by the end of 2024, or 2023, my bad. 2024, he's probably right outside top 5 or within reach of it. So, but Bo Nickel, he just started. Jamie Pickett was going to fight Trayshawn Gore, so they're kind of slow rolling him a little bit more. He's still pretty young, so that's why I'm going to put him right under Tatsuro Taira. Now this next guy. This one I was having the hardest time choosing because I really like Robbie Lawler, and I don't want to be disrespectful, and that's the thing here. But this was really rough to make it because I can already see the comments, But I'm putting Robbie Lawler under Bo Nickel. Robbie Lawler, I think has won one fight against the carcass of Nick Diaz within the last. When was the last time he won a fight? We're gonna switch over to Tapology for a second. When was the last time he won a fight? I think I have the number or the date here. Last time he's won a fight other than Nick Diaz was against Donald Cerrone in 2017. But obviously there's some good fighters. RDA, Ben Askren was competitive. All these fights have been relatively competitive. Lost to RDA, lost to Ben Askren, lost to Colby, lost to Neil Magny, beat Nick Diaz, who honestly I don't even know why he was fighting that fight, and then lost to Brian Barberena. So I don't like putting Robbie here, but he's retiring. He's an older guy. I think people will understand why I put him under Bo Nickel. But at least he's in B tier. I didn't disrespect him on this list. I hope that's understood here. But I think that's probably the right spot for Robbie Lawler at this point. Hopefully he enjoys his retirement after this next fight, and he doesn't get KO'd. But next up here, we got Terrence Mitchell. Now, I don't know if this one will be a controversial spot at the bottom of D tier here, but maybe he could easily go here. Because Shannon Ross, I don't even know why he's in the UFC. Terrence Mitchell, the only time we've really seen him was getting KO'd by Kai Car-France within 30 seconds, and all of his other fights have been on an Alaskan company fighting 4-1 guys and beating them. So we don't really see too much out of Terrence Mitchell within fighting good fighters. Last time he did that, he lost in 30 seconds. So that's why I'm putting him at D tier. We'll see what he's able to do in his next matchup, I believe, against Tatsuro Taira. So I don't even know if he's going to do good there either. So, oh wait, I'm sorry. It's not Tatsuro Taira. how he's going to do against Cameron Simon. Cameron Simon is actually a pretty good prospect. We'll see how that fight goes. Cameron Simon is the little protege to Dricus du Plessis. So they're both wild fighters. It could be an interesting matchup. We'll see what happens, but I am going to go with Terrence Mitchell right in the middle there between, what's his name, Woodburn and Shannon Ross. All right, we got a few more fighters here. Well, not a few more. We got about 10. I'm going to do B tier here, and I'll go A tier. I'm going to put Nico Price right under Robbie Lawler. I think Nico Price, maybe you put him above Robbie Lawler. But Nico Price has really competitive fights with a lot of these guys, which I didn't want to put him too high, but I didn't want to put him too low. I think he does beat Robbie Lawler, but I think, I don't know. He does beat Robbie Lawler, but I think Robbie Lawler has fought some good opponents, and Nico Price just lost to Philip Rowe, and Philip Rowe just lost to Neil Magny. So, I don't know. This is where I'm putting them. Maybe they just stack on top of each other, but they're going to be right next to each other. I do think Nico Price beats Robbie Lawler, just being a little bit more durable, but we'll see. Robbie Lawler has a chance, but I don't know. I'm gonna put him right behind Robbie Lawler in this matchup. If he beats him, it's obviously gonna be ahead of him, and he's gonna retire, so it won't matter. But all right, next guy on this list, we're gonna put Yair Rodriguez right after Brandon Moreno. Now his wins recently haven't been the best, and now this one could actually be interesting. Hold on. I don't know if I want to. I might adjust this one later, but Yair Rodriguez recently has a loss to Max Holloway. Beat Jeremy Stevens 4 years ago. Relatively recently, within the last couple of years, lost to Max Holloway. Beat Brian Ortega due to an injury that Ortega got on the ground. Even though he was looking really good in that fight, but it finally got to the ground, and that's Ortega's specialty. And then beat Josh Emmett, who honestly shouldn't even been in that position, with weird wins over Cater and Ige, where he arguably could have lost those, or probably should have lost those. Let's be real. So I just think he has a really good chance at beating Volk. Like, I don't want to say like it's probable, but I think out of any of the rest of the guys in that division, probably excluding Max Holloway, but Max Holloway lost him 3 times and got schooled on the 3rd. Maybe he has one of the better chances to beat Volk. I think it's like 65-35 maybe in percentages. So it is relatively close there. So I think I'm going to put him at 3 in A tier. I don't know. I might change that one up later while this video goes on when I put the last guy on there, which you could probably, by process of elimination, you could probably see who I'm going to put down there. So yeah, I think I'll come back to that one for sure. Going at C tier here, we got Edgar Chairez, and now he fought in the Dana White Contender Series, I believe, this past year against Clayton Carpenter. Lost that one by decision, but he's been champ, I believe, at Fury FC. I think he was champ. Got 2 finishes, came back on here. We'll kind of see where he's at. He's a decent fighter, but I didn't know necessarily where to put him. If he looks impressive, we'll see where he goes. Who is he fighting against? Tatsuro Taira. I think Tatsuro Taira beats him, so that's pretty unfortunate for him, but I think he's a decent fighter. We'll see how this one goes. Not too much to say about that one. We'll go Cameron Simon right under Nico Price at B tier. Now this one might move also. Like, a lot of these guys could move just based on subjectivity of this list in general. I'm going to go Cameron Simon. I think he's a good prospect. Keeps a good pace. Has really good ground game. Really good on the feet. I really do enjoy his fights. I enjoy his and Dricus du Plessis' fights. So I'm put him right under Nico Price. I am probably going to move this one a little bit, though, now that I think about it. Yeah, I'll definitely move this one. Why don't we go, because I think I'm going to double up on the next few. So we're going to go Josiah Harold at C tier. I think there's actually some potential within Josiah Harold, but he is fighting Jack Della Maddalena at 170, and his last fight was a catchweight at 162, so he's probably a 155er. He is a smaller guy, so I think he's going to lose to Jack Della Maddalena. He's pretty talented as a fighter, good on the feet, decent on the ground. Maybe he ends up on Dana White's Contender Series after he loses against Jack Della Maddalena, or stays in UFC and runs some stuff in a different division. I don't know, but I think he's a decent prospect. So maybe Josiah Harold goes above Edgar Hernandez here. Just prospect-wise, I think he's a little bit better. And then why don't we go... We'll go Alonzo Manyfield, and we're going to put Jimmy Crute here because I think they come in a package. Because their last fight was a draw. It's very close. They're going in a package on this one. I think whoever wins this one, I think we'll probably move up. I'm actually going to put Cameron Simon. That's why I wanted to put both of you guys. I'm going to put Cameron Simon below them. He's beaten Martinez and Steven Kozlov. So these guys have fought a little bit better of opponents than one. I think Alonzo Manyfield beats Jimmy Crute, so that's why I'm going to put him above him here. But I don't know. They come in a package. We'll see who wins that one. They'll move up. Maybe if Nico Price doesn't look too good, maybe they move above Nico Price. And maybe if they can move up here for sure. They're definitely talented fighters. We'll see what happens in that matchup. But this is where I'm going to put them. Don't think there's going to be too much outrage there. Why don't we go to C tier here? I'm going to put Kamuela Kirk at C tier. I think he's a decent fighter. He's got some skills, but I don't see him winning against Esteban Ribovic. And I think Esteban Ribovic has a little bit more potential within his division. I don't know about Kamuela Kirk. He beat Makwan Amirkhani and then lost to Damon Jackson. So that's where he's at in the C tier. If you lose to Damon Jackson, the bar is going to go a little bit lower for you. So that's where I'm putting him. Why don't we do this one next? We'll put Alejandro Pantoja. And this is where I think it could possibly switch with Yair Rodriguez. Because I think Pantoja does beat Brandon Moreno. And he probably has a better resume as of right now against Yair Rodriguez. Beat Perez recently, beat Cap, beat Royval. Yair Rodriguez beat Emmett by finish, get the interim belt. Beat Ortega due to injury. Lost to Max Holloway in a close fight. I think I guess I got to put Pantoja above him, huh? Now that I'm saying it, I think Pantoja has to go above. Winner gets to move up here. I think Pantoja does beat Brandon Moreno, but I won't put him above him because Brandon Moreno is very skilled and he's beaten Figueiredo a couple times. And Pantoja has lost to Figueiredo, even though these guys have fought before. And Pantoja has beaten him twice. It was not an older version of Brandon Moreno about 5 years ago. So they're going to be right here with each other. If Pantoja wins, he'll obviously be above Brandon Moreno there. But that's how I'm going to put it. But I do think Yair Rodriguez has a good chance at beating Volk. That's the thing. That's the thing with this. It's really weird. Pantoja beats Moreno. Yair Rodriguez has a really good chance at beating Volk. So that's the high level part of A tier. You know what I mean? No scrubs at A tier for sure, I guess. Definitely going to move on from that. All right, we got, what's her name again? Denise Gomez. I'm going to put her at the bottom of C tier. Beat Bruno Brazil. Lost to Loma Lukbumi. I think won on Dana White's Contender Series also. So I don't really know where she's at, but I am going to put her below Kamuela Kirk for her matchup. And then for her opponent, I'm actually going to put her at the bottom of B tier. She actually looks really good for a woman's fighter. Like, has a lot of skills. I don't know. I have a lot of high hopes for her. She's looked really good against Lucindo. I think she beat Estela Nunes. Looked really good in that matchup. I think she looks really good against Denise Gomez. I think she's one of the more skilled women's MMA fighters that we see. So that's where I'm putting her at the bottom of B tier. I think she deserves it. She's earned it. If she keeps racking up wins, maybe she moves up and gets ranked, and maybe we'll see her at the top. Who knows? Maybe she develops a little bit more. She's still extremely young also, so hopefully she develops a little bit more there. But again, we're going to put the guy at S here, of course, is Alexander Volkanovski, one of the best pound-for-pound fighters in the UFC. Probably the most balanced guy in the UFC outside of John Jones. But if you're going skill for skill, you'll probably say Volkanovski just because he is a lower weight class. But Volkanovski, an absolute terror in the featherweight division. Beat Max 3 times, beat Aldo, beat Mendez. Am I missing someone? Beat Ortega, beat Korean Zombie. I think he'll beat Yair Rodriguez. It will be a little bit tough early on. I think he beats Yair Rodriguez, runs through that division. Ilia Topuria is really the only guy left in that division. And now he's looking at lightweight. So he's definitely one of the best fighters on this list. Probably, I think he's second pound for pound in the UFC. So that's this list here. I don't know if there's too much to complain about here. I'm sure there will be some spots. I think I adjusted it as the video went on, and I think it does look a little bit better. I think maybe the real arguments would probably go down here, maybe more with the Bo Nickel being a little bit higher on this list, I guess, is where some of the arguments would go. But I think probably towards the bottom of this list, maybe a Petrino is a little too low, or Pacino is a little I don't know. I think this is good. I actually like this one. Maybe D tier. Maybe D tier. Maybe I put too many people in B tier. I don't know. I think this is a good list. Tell me what you guys think about this list in the comments below. Tell me what you guys think about UFC 290. I'm super excited for it. Honestly, I went through the entire card, and I think only one of the fights I was like, like this one won't be fun. But I'm actually interested in every single one of these fights on this card. So I'm really looking forward to it. There's at least one person, even if it's like a lower ranked fight, there's at least one guy in the fight that I'm really looking forward to as like a prospect within it. So this is a really good card. Hopefully the professional UFC fighters actually act professional, make weight, so we get a really nice card coming into this weekend, and we get to see a really good card. So hope you guys enjoyed the video. Let me know what you guys think about it in the comments below, and I'll see you guys next time.